One license. Download, create, report. Once you're a subscriber, you'll have access to thousands of downloadable music image files from our catalog of member publishers, and our outstanding database will help you make sure the song or text you're looking for is covered. Creating worship aids, bulletins, and projections has never been easier. Search for your song and download high-resolution music image files, all in one place. By taking advantage of the most up-to-date technology, our website makes it easy to report the titles you use. This ensures authors, composers, and publishers receive fair compensation. Music directors, pastors, and their teams can report song usage 12 weeks in the past and 6 weeks into the future. And our convenient list feature allows you to store frequently used titles for future access, or to download your entire list of songs at the click of a button. One License offers annual, event, and single-use reprint licenses. Annual licenses are the economical choice for those who reprint or project music on a regular basis. Event licenses are great for retreats, conferences, and conventions that are up to 1 week in length. And single-use licenses are perfect for a wedding, funeral, or other one-time event. In addition to congregational reprint licenses, One License offers a podcast streaming license for churches to stay connected to their many members, and a practice track license for music directors to share recordings with choir members and instrumentalists to help them learn their music. The One License customer service team is here to help. Our intelligent ticketing system and phone support ensure that your questions are promptly addressed. Email us at info@onelicense.net or call us at 1-800-663-1501. We believe in the power of music to connect and inspire communities. One License allows congregations to make the most of our member publishers' music, providing access to the finest music for the worshiping assembly. Whether you're using our service on an annual or a one-time basis, we're proud to offer our support. One License, inspiring congregational song.
Hello and welcome to the 2019 Group License webinar. I'm Brenna Cronin, General Manager of One License and Group Sales Manager for North America, Europe, and the UK. A very warm welcome to each of you from the One License main office in Chicago. It is so nice to see such a positive turnout on our call today. So I will wish a good evening to our friends in Chicago and on the East Coast. Good afternoon to our friends on the West Coast, and good morning to our friends in Australia and New Zealand. I understand it's a very early morning for some of you, so thank you for joining us. Part of what makes One License such an exciting endeavor is that we are serving the global church. We thank you for your partnership with us in engaging congregational song and supporting your communities through vibrant and meaningful worship. Today we are covering the concept of group licenses. With over 1,700 of our customers benefiting from the features of group licenses each year, it is clear that centralized billing, accountability in reporting, and streamlined administration of copyright licenses are ideal for all kinds of different groups, including school districts, diocesan offices, a network of summer camps, and other umbrella-based organizations. On the call with me today is Monica O'Brien, Group Sales Manager for Australia and New Zealand, as well as Shanae Gray, License Holder Support Agent, who will be assisting with our Q&A process. Before we get to that, Monica, I invite you to introduce yourself and share a little bit about the concept of group licenses.
Thanks, Brenna. Well, it's good to be here with all of you. I particularly like to have a shout out to the Australian and the New Zealand participants. Many of you have been group managers within your region for a number of years, and your feedback has been amazing as we've developed this platform that we see today. So thank you for that input. Others are new to One License and particularly to group licenses, and I'm sure today's webinar will provide you with valuable insights on the benefits of the group license and the functionality that it offers. So thanks for being here today, and thank you for demonstrating your willingness to support the composers and the publishers who write and produce music for our corporate worship. The concept of the group license is quite a simple one, really. If there are a group of 10 or more region or a diocese, one license can provide an annual license for the entire group. Those separate entities, we call them sub-organisations or child organisations, such as the churches and the schools. They're assigned their own licence number and they have their own logins and they're responsible for their own reporting. So that nothing's really taken from them. It just means that I like to sort of say we're all singing from the same song sheet. There's many benefits that are associated with the group licence and they'll be highlighted throughout this webinar. But to me, the group licence offers advantages outside the obvious ones of copyright compliance and efficiency. It also provides a means to set up really robust communication channels between the churches or the schools or the the people in the group licence with the head office. This, I think, really enriches the collaboration and the communication, and it has really strong pastoral benefits. And I know that speaking to my Australian and New Zealand colleagues, I'm sure that you would agree that this is a very positive outcome that we may not sort of see firsthand. So the head office, or what we refer to as the parent organisation, it's the point of contact for one licence and for the group members. One invoice is issued by one licence to the head office, and then you can then in turn bill your members, or in some cases the actual head office pays outright for the head office on behalf of the others. So that's sort of your decision to make. Those in administrative and pastoral leadership roles at regional levels find the group licence very helpful from a pastoral and educational perspective. They are able to keep an eye out on outdated repertoire, check records to ensure that reporting is being done regularly and correctly, engage in educational activities for the group members, and make sure that there's appropriate licensing coverage for your organisation to avoid copyright infringement. In my role, I communicate personally with group managers via phone and email. I serve Australia and New Zealand with my colleague Sinead. If an organisation would like to explore the benefits that are associated with a regional licence in Australia and New Zealand, I'm the first port of call. I coordinate the compiling of the data and set up the group licence in close liaising with Brenna and her team. My role doesn't stop there. I'm more than happy and delighted to be a point of contact should you need assistance, which is outside the general help desk inquiries. So that's just a really brief outline of where I'm involved in Sinead, and yeah, really happy to have you all here on the call. Thank you. Over to you, Brenna.
Thank you so much for that overview. I really appreciate it. So again, if you're just joining us, thank you so much for your time this morning, afternoon, or evening. I want to echo some of the concepts and the role of idea of managing the group licenses that Monica was beginning to say. So if you are in Australia and New Zealand, Monica is your original point of contact. And then if you're anywhere else in the world, essentially North America, Europe, UK, I am your point of contact for that. So what's really exciting about One License is that we serve the global church. We serve the English speaking church. We are looking for a way eventually to have our website in Spanish as well. But if you are a primarily English speaking organization, you can have access to a license through our service. So group licenses are available worldwide, and they're available for any type of umbrella organization, like a school district, a diocesan office, a network of summer camps, etc., that would fit under that type of concept of what an organization would be. So I'd like to welcome specifically the wide variety of organizations that we have on the call today, all across the globe. So everyone has an idea of kind of where everyone is starting from. So the first is organizations already involved in a group license, including the individuals who manage those accounts. We have plenty of those people on the call today. We also have organizations who have an annual license, but they're not linked to a group quite yet, or they're trying to figure out if that's going to be a good fit for their organization. We also have organizations who are not connected to us at all, but they're interested in their diocese or their school district beginning a license and beginning it initially as a group right from the get-go. So rest assured, this webinar is going to be of benefit to each of you, and we encourage you to submit your questions so that we can answer them during the call. I'll cover that concept of Q&As here in just a moment. To begin explaining the webinar process, we'll run approximately 60 minutes depending on the Q&A portions. So at this point, we're almost 15 minutes in. So we will wrap up in about 45 minutes or so. Note that the webinar is being recorded. That's part of the reason why I've been intentionally muting some of you. It's going to be recorded, so we'll be able to have it up on the blog so you can access that anytime, just in case you know someone who missed the call or you want to watch it back for any additional support. The webinar is being recorded live. It will be available in the April newsletter. If you're already a license holder with us, you get that newsletter each month, so you can be on the lookout for that as well. And at this time, I'd like to introduce everyone to Shanae Gray, our license holder support agent serving Australia and New Zealand. Shanae, would you like to share a little bit about your role in serving our One License customers?
Thanks, Brenna. First of all, I'd like to say hi. My name is Shanae. I am the customer support and sales representative for One License in Australia and New Zealand. If you do ever find yourself calling a 02 number, a local number in Australia, you're going to be calling me. So firstly, we would like to thank those who submitted their questions in advance. Those have been compiled and will be referenced throughout the webinar. If you did not have a chance to submit your question, you may do so at any time during this call to info@onelicense.net. Please keep in mind Australia and New Zealand that it's info@onelicense, not ce.net. Questions that are of benefit to this worldwide call will be given an answer live, but please note that if your question is too specific to your organisation, we may choose to follow it up with you after the fact. Again, we ask that you submit these questions to info@onelicense.net, and note that listing the subject line webinar question would be most helpful for me. I will be moderating questions throughout the entire call, so if they are applicable in the moment, I will direct them towards Brenna or Monica. We will also have an extended Q&A portion at the end of the call for any questions that could not be answered during the webinar. Thanks, Brenna.
Lovely. Thank you, Shanae. So my friends, as we dive deep, I encourage you to bring a spirit of full, conscious, and active participation by getting out a pen for taking any notes and then submitting your questions to info@onelicense.net. I'd like to offer a very brief exterior website tutorial. If this is the first time that you're interacting with our website, I encourage you to visit this How It Works page. This includes all of our tutorial videos, which will give you a better look at how the website actually functions in terms of downloading and reporting music usage. So One License is primarily a reporting service and secondarily a downloading service. This means that of our 160 plus member publishers and their divisions, they participate in the reprint permissions aspect of the website, but not all of them have downloadable files available. The larger companies that we work with, GIA, OCP, World Library, Willow, etc., you are going to see those downloads available for most of their pieces of music, but not all of the publishers participate in that entity. So just be very mindful of that. Our member publishers page, if you're wondering who we cover and who we don't cover, you can search from here and then type in a publisher name. So for example, typing in GIA comes up and then also includes all of their lists of copyrights as well. So this is a highly searchable page if you'd ever like to see if a publishing entity, a copyright holder, is covered. We want to be very transparent about what we cover and what we don't cover. I know that some of you have licenses with other licensing agents. So One License tends to lean more liturgical in nature. There are other licensing companies that tend to lean more praise and worship or evangelical in their style. So you can search music titles at any time in this black and white bar right down here at the bottom of the page to see if a title is available. The options and prices page in the upper right-hand corner, it breaks out the cost of each organization based on the average weekly attendance for churches and student enrollment for schools. So be mindful, I'm logged in here in the US, so you're going to see all of these prices in US dollars. If you happen to be watching from somewhere else, you can always adjust and change this if you're not logged in. So you can estimate what the cost would be for your group organization by submitting a quote request to our team with two pieces of information: the name of the organization, and then either their attendance if it's a school, attendance if it's a church, or enrollment if it's a school. We can generate that quote for you. So just those two pieces of information, and we can do that. Once you're comfortable moving forward, we would begin the onboarding process by your team generating a spreadsheet of data. So this includes all kinds of different contact information, email addresses for users, etc. So if you don't have a license yet and you're looking for us to generate a quote for you, we can do that with the name of the organization and then that number. And then once you're ready to move forward, there will be quite a significantly sized spreadsheet for you to populate the rest of the information. So that way our IT team can actually onboard the group into the system. Discounts are offered to organizations that bring on new license holders and vary depending on the number of sub-organizations or child organizations, you might hear us call them by that same kind of name, under the master account or the parent account. You're welcome to connect with us directly for more insight on discounts, but they're typically between 20 and 30% of the overall license cost, depending on the number of organizations that are coming on board. So I'll mention specifically here that group licenses are really designed for an organization that has at least 10 sub-organizations. There are special cases where the number could be less than 10, but those are quite uncommon, so I just want to be very transparent about that. A cluster of parishes, like 3 churches sharing a priest, is not a group license account. We have a special arrangement for that and it's handled separately. So when we say group licenses, we mean all of the sub-organizations in an umbrella organization, like an entire school district or an entire diocesan office. Note that if your organization already has active license holders in our system, we'll also need their current license number and expiration date to track any type of proration that may be involved in switching to the group format. So it takes a significant amount of administration by Monica and I at the very beginning to create the group, but then once it's put together, it's pretty straightforward. You have to log in once a year and make your edits, and we'll go over that. But from there, the ship kind of sails itself. The group account will then have the same license start and expiration date, with the invoice only going to the master account holder and not to the sub or child organization. So that streamlined billing is a really important piece of how the group licenses work. I want to direct your attention to our blog here for just a moment. It's news.onelicense.net, so you can put the word news in front of our website and you'll pull it up. You can also get there from the homepage, scrolling down and then seeing our most updated, look at it, it's loading right there, our most updated pieces of information on our blog. So there's 2 things in particular that I want to draw your attention to. It was recently published, so you can see it here at the bottom of the screen, but I always encourage people to use keywords. So if we search the word group, 2 things will pop up: the group license brochures, and then also the robust features of group licenses. This kind of gives a really general overview of who group licenses are a good fit for, the onboarding process, the management of it. Of course, this webinar expands what this blog post is talking about, of course, but this would be a really good place for you to start as well to take a look. And then also, if you want to download a copy of a brochure, they're regionally specific. So I can click on this link, and I can download a copy of the Australian brochure, and then you can see the pricing specific to your region, all right? So that could be a really good option for you as well if you wanted to print out like an actual paper copy. You can also download it as a PDF as well, and we can also email you a copy as well. Note that you can also access all of our previous webinars by searching for webinar in this upper right-hand corner. So I just want to acknowledge the folks maybe that the concept of one license is brand new to you. You don't have a license with us already, and we may be moving a little too quickly for you this evening, so I just want to call that to mind. You can search webinar in the upper right-hand corner to get more of an overview of the website itself, or breaking down specific types of licenses that we offer, like the podcast streaming license. These are all really, really great webinar options for you. So in the spirit of that, Monica, I know we breezed through that very quickly. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about how either groups are created or the exterior of the website?
Not really, except just to say that when the group license, when you're inquiring about a group license, if you're doing that, Some questions that come up in relation to that is what happens if there are some churches or schools in my region that already have a license and they've already paid for an annual license. Just in terms of, Brenna touched into this about the prorating the fee. So what we basically do is, say for example, if a particular church has paid 6 months, we will actually not charge them the full amount. It will be prorated against the group account. So a few people have asked that question. That will be my only clarification. Everything else was pretty straightforward. Thanks, Brenna.
Thank you for saying that. And I'll specify, you'll see a copy of the group license template that I just pulled up here. It's a really basic Excel spreadsheet. If the organization already had a license, this column A here, having that existing license number is going to be really helpful for us. The same thing with the license dates that are here, because then after all of this other contact information is populated, we can then add the category pricing and then add another column for any type of prorations that need to happen. So Monica and I have come across that quite often, actually. There's one organization that's already paid ahead 6 months, but then there's another organization that's behind 3 months. And we work our mathematical magic to make sure that everyone is on the same page, because then ultimately, once the group is established, all of the licenses will begin and expire on the same exact date. And that's really important for that billing element of it. So if you don't have a group license with us yet, you can get used to seeing this template spreadsheet when that happens. But yes, we will prorate and edit everything appropriately, so that way everyone's on the same time frame, and also so that way there isn't any money that's lost either way. So Shanae, are there any questions that we can answer so far?
Yes, so I have one question here, which is how and who do I contact at One License to get a license started, and what information should I be preparing before contacting you?
So if you're looking to have a group license specifically, and Monica, you can feel free to answer this too in just a moment. If you're looking to have a group license specifically, if you want to email us and say, I'm in this region, I'm looking to start a group license, I have approximately, let's say 20 organizations that I work with, I'm looking for a quote, or I'm looking to move forward, or can you generate a quote so I can take it to my parish council and they can review it. Sending us an email to info@onelicense.net. Our team in Chicago will receive that message, and then it will be assigned to the appropriate region, so either Monica or I, and then we'll begin that conversation with you. Since group licenses are so unique and individual to each organization, it really is a one-on-one conversation for how it's going to get created, so that way the time periods can line up, the pricing can line up, etc.
Yeah, and I would just add to that it's usually a conversation in Australia or New Zealand. So we start with a conversation just so that we're clear on what you need, and then a spreadsheet, as Brenna has shown you, will be sent. And I work very closely with the group manager to make sure that it's understood and the whole process is understood. Look, it is quite a learning curve. If your parishes have been working another system, or they don't have a license, or the schools have, confused about where their responsibilities lie. So a bit of education happens along the way as well. So I mean, all of you that I'm dealing with personally, we have a personal relationship, and it's built on, questions and answers and things like that. So yeah, we're holding hands through the process. That's for sure.
You are right. But as I promised earlier, after that, the ship kind of sails itself, doesn't it?
Sure does. It's great. Oh, it's very efficient, and that's the feedback that we receive all the way. Once we get the licenses set up, it really is smooth sailing.
Shanae, any other questions?
No, that's all for now. Thanks.
Okay, very good. So we're going to look at the interior of the website now. Some of you who already have licenses, this is the portion that you are here for. So we're here to give it to you. I am logged in as an organization here in the United States. So that way I can show you all of this functionality. So the Community of Christ Michigan Mission Center, they are a community of summer camps. So there's maybe 50 of them or so. And there are different summer camps that exist throughout the state of Michigan. So they have a group license because they're all connected, again, under that one central umbrella organization. So this is the view that group managers of an account will have when they log in. Under My Account, if we click on My Profile, and then Organization Profile, these two tabs right here are where the contact information is kept. So if you ever need to edit any of that, you do it from these two tabs that are here. Under Licenses is where you can see the specific license that you have. So you'll see they go for a full calendar year. This one was just renewed today, and it will expire March 31st of next year. You'll see the annual reprint license number that is listed there as well. Under this green arrow, you can view a copy of the invoice, you can download a copy of the license terms, and you can also send yourself a copy of the welcome packet. For those of you that have licenses, you know how helpful these welcome packets are. They include the invoice, they include the terms, they include a letter from myself, and then they also include a document of helpful instructions. So the welcome packets are absolutely essential. If podcast streaming was going to be added to the account, you can do that here as well. For group licenses, we do ask that you contact us, though. There could be some nuance where some of the organizations want that functionality and some of them don't. So just being mindful of that and how Monica and I can kind of steward that experience for you. Taking a look at the other tabs that are here, user accounts is specifically designed for additional users on the master account. So for example, a billing contact to receive the group invoice. This is not to add additional users for individual organizations. Those are added on the group organizations tab over here on the right-hand side. So note that users under user accounts do have their own email address, they do have their own password, and they assist in administering the account. So I'll be specific here and say it's not uncommon to not see anyone listed here for an account. This group in particular, they have the one person that manages it. They take care of the invoice, and there really isn't anyone else that needs to be involved necessarily. But say you're in a very large diocesan type of office or a very large school district. We have some of those. These schools have 125, 150 schools that are within that school district. You may need additional folks on here who can help with the administration of the license. So maybe those folks are contacting the organizations to update their enrollment. Maybe they're contacting them to encourage them to fix up their reporting because they're behind. So it doesn't surprise me that there's no one else listed here, but if there is anyone else listed here, it's because they're a part of the umbrella parent, master, you pick which word works for you, organization. So they're working closely in contact with that master administrator of the account. Billing contacts, if I can add one here by clicking add user and checking this billing contact box here. So billing contacts, regardless of the type of the account, do not have login privileges. They only receive the automated invoice each year. So payment can be made from the exterior of the website. There are also wire transfer options. If you're in North America, you can send a check. There's lots of different payment options that you can find through our website, especially this button right here, make a payment. But the reason why billing contacts don't have login privileges is because if you can imagine, put on your treasurer hat for just a second, you've got hundreds and hundreds of bills that you pay every single year. And if you're only logging into my website once a year, there's no way you're going to remember whatever your password is just to log in once a year. So we specifically designed the billing contacts so that way they get the output of information, they get that invoice each year, and then they don't have to worry about anything else associated with that. So when you're adding a user to this user account section, the sub users, that's if you don't click anything, don't click this billing contact here. If we just wanted to add a sub user, they have the ability to help administrate the account for you, but they will not take your role as the primary administrator. So I know there was a question that came in earlier today about user accounts, so I hope that that's helpful. If there's anything more I can specify about that, just email info@onelicense.net and we'll take a look at that. Default settings. So for this section, it gives you the option to choose a default worship resource in case your organization uses a certain hymnal or a certain missalette. Those results populate to the top of the search fields. We recommend keeping services on the right-hand side here as 1, since master or group accounts rarely use the license. Listing a number here is going to duplicate the services. So for example, if you use the same music at all 3 masses in a weekend, then your number here is going to be 3. So I'll be specific here as an example for this organization. Again, this is a community of summer camps, so they only have kids that are at the camps at a certain number of times per year, right? So listing, 3 services here isn't going to make any sense for them because they don't have an average of 3 services every week. So keep the service at 1. That way, if you log in and report your usage, it's only going to be counted as 1. Now, group organizations is the tab that the group manager is going to spend the most time in. So Monica, I would love for you to break down this page for us. And again, if you have any questions about this page, folks, email us at info@onelicense.net and we can break it down even further.
Sure. So what you'll see here, of course, is on the left-hand side of this is the name of the organisation, or the location in this case, the contact person, the address, the licence number and the category, and whether the person or the group has reported. Just like to draw your attention to the categories section. So the category is the average attendance. If you drop that down as Brenna has just done, you will see a whole bunch of different categories here, A, B, C, etc., based on the average attendance. So this is, in this case, this is a category A, which means that there's 1 to 25 people who attend on an average in a week. So if you needed to change that, for example, if something was, you had more people coming into your services or more students in your schools, this is where you do that. You simply just click it and then you choose the correct category and you tick it and you're done and dusted it. The second column that I'd just like to draw your attention to is the latest reported week. This is fantastic for group managers because in terms of compliance, it really helps you assist your people in your group to be compliant with copyright. So here you can see the last reported dates, say on that second line there, is January 19 to January 2025, 2017. So, if you saw something like that come up, this would be a good place to give that person a call and ask them if you can help them, because clearly they haven't reported, in the time frame that we require them to. The reporting is really critical. If reporting doesn't happen, composers and publishers, particularly composers, they don't get their just royalty. So it's a justice issue as well as a legal issue. Having a license is part of the story. Making sure that reporting happens completes the story and enables the license to do what it's meant to do. So further over in the little green tab with the arrow there, you can see that this has a number of functions as well. You can edit an organisation here, which we'll just, that brings up the actual window that Brennan was explaining before. So you can make some changes there as you need to. We'll just cancel out of that now and pop back into it. And the other thing that you can do here is edit the users for that particular organisation or that particular child. So this is helpful if you have a secretary that might change, an administrator that might change in a school. The thing to remember here too is that the actual license holder, the individual, can change this as well at their end. But sometimes someone leaves the school and the group manager will need to make some changes. This is where you would do that. Thank you. And do we have a third drop down on that, Brenna? I just can't remember.
Yeah,
you
can 12 months history reports. Yeah, I can talk about that. I'll mention a few other things too about this section here. If you wanted to make one of these organizations a podcast organization, you can do so by editing that right here. We're going to talk about expiration dates and things like that in just a few minutes. But you can be mindful that, if the Alpena group wants to add a podcast streaming, but Ann Arbor doesn't, no problem. You can just edit it from here. This NA section, as much as this hurts my heart to see, this means that the latest reported week is not available because there isn't one. Oof. So this is a good opportunity to educate the organization and say, you know, hey, you got somebody over here who hasn't reported since October. You know, that might not be that bad, right? Like maybe this organization only meets a couple of times a year. But if this organization, you know, has been meeting since, you know, you've had the license, which is a considerable amount of time, you're going to want to make sure that you're holding these people accountable. So this latest reported week column is incredibly important. There also may be some incentives as well. It looks like this group here just reported less than 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, you know, so how can you reward them or celebrate them for doing that? So things that you can keep in mind there as well. And if at any time when you're editing the users, if you get an error message here, a duplicate message, something like that, when you're adding a new user, it could be that they already exist in the system. So if, for example, the the manager from Ann Arbor is switching to Bay City and Bay City is sitting to Boyne City, and there's lots of switching that's happening, and you're kind of getting tongue twisted and confused about where everyone is, or you're getting that duplicate message, send us an email and we can help kind of reconfigure and reorient how the group is appearing here. So the green arrow for the 12-month reporting history, this is really, really important. So I'll use the one that just reported most recently. By clicking 12-month reporting history, you can see that I'm generating a report. So my status here was that I was waiting, and now it's available for download. So I can click on download, I can open my file, and I can see for this specific organization, you'll see it saved. You'll see it saved as Boyne City. You can see exactly what these folks are reporting. In a similar way, if they weren't reporting anything, you could also see that as well. But this is a really great example of how you can take this, you can print this out, you can save it, put it into an email, and you can hold these organizations accountable under this group license umbrella. If you're not under a group license, then no, you can't see anybody else's reports. It's a private account, right? But one of the greatest things that this group license offers is this sense of accountability. You can also do the same thing if you go over to PDF reports. You can download a copy of their entire group history. So that's an option for you as well. You can access that by scrolling down to the very, very bottom of all of the organizations. Click on Group Report. You'll see that that's generating. And then this may take some time to pull up because there are 50 organizations in this group. Oh, not bad. So this is 17 pages for the entire organization. And you can see what everyone has reported. If they haven't reported anything, they're not going to be on this list, as you can see. So be mindful of that as well. So I want to discuss some very important cutoff dates for invoicing. Invoices lock on the first day of the month in which the renewal takes place. So for example, if your license expiration date renews on May 1st of each year, then your invoice locks on May 1st. If your license expiration date renews on May 15th of each year, your invoice still locks on May 1st. So this means that your data must be updated in the system no later than April 30th, as your invoice will renew at midnight on May 1st. So because we're a global company, there's lots of different time zones that we have to take into effect with this. But your midnight on May 1st is when the invoice locks. Now, of course, when the invoice locks, no other changes can be made. So for example, adding an organization, editing the enrollment and attendance amounts that Monica was talking about, none of those things can be edited anymore without the effort of manual effort on Monica and I's ends, along with our IT team, and that can be a little tricky. So I'll just be transparent about that. So knowing this lockout period is absolutely crucial, as the manual edits to update the invoices after the fact are much more difficult for all parties involved. So I recommend a calendar reminder for 2 weeks in advance as an unofficial due date for yourself. So this way that there's still time for questions from Monica and I if needed. As the group manager, you are responsible for the administration of your group, including these due dates. So I recommend also setting a calendar reminder from 6 weeks to 1 month in advance to begin the editing process, should any changes need to be made. Asking your sub-organizations to respond with any changes to their account, including these enrollment or attendance numbers, is absolutely essential. You're then going to make those changes from this dashboard area. So I'll give you an example with this account that we're looking at. They just renewed today, which means that all of the information here, all of these categories, the listing of all of these organizations is locked. All right. So if they were going to try and add an organization today, it would not show up on their current invoice. So it takes more administrative effort in order for us to get those on there. It can happen, of course it can happen, but it just takes a little bit more effort. So being mindful of, what is your cutoff date? Maybe your license renews at the beginning of the school year. So you know that a month in advance of that, you get those enrollment numbers, and then that way, all of the edits can happen in the right amount of time. I also know that there are plenty of schools, they still take their enrollment up until school starts or maybe even 30 days after the fact. So with that, we are mindful of having category ranges. So if your enrollment on the first day of school is 225, and then on the 1 month later it's up to 250, that's going to be okay if your range is from 200 to 400 people. That's not going to be a problem, right? But if you're all the way down here in the 100s and you take a guess, but then your enrollment is 225, that can be really tricky. So we ask that once a year when this information needs to be updated, just take a quick look at it. The ranges might be big enough for you where you don't need to edit it, especially once you get up into these bigger numbers. These are church numbers that we're looking at. We're not looking at school numbers in this moment, but these ranges might be huge enough for you that you don't need to make any edits to them. But just being mindful of the idea of these category ranges and these expiration dates. Before we go to Shanae with some general Q&A, Monica, do you have anything else that you want to say about this section? I know that a lot of questions come up for folks here.
No, I'm okay at the moment. Thanks, Brenna. I think you're covering main points. Thank you.
Okay, great. Shanae, what kind of questions do we have either about this section here, or we can take it when you're ready to general Q&A as well?
I think we're ready to go to general Q&A, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Firstly, I'd just like to thank everybody for sending through their questions to info@onelicense.org. They're all fantastic questions and very valid. So we'll try and get through as many as we can right now. First question that we have is, who is ultimately responsible for reporting usages?
Great question. So the individual account holder is responsible. So for example, you'll see these people here listed in this contact name section. These are the people that are responsible. At the end of the day, there's only so much that the account owner or the account manager, this person up here, can do other than administrate the account. If this was a diocesan office, maybe there are other individuals that you could call in to help support this effort. Maybe there is some more education that you can do in your diocese or your school district. We definitely recommend folks, looking at this at the beginning of whatever makes sense for them, school year, fiscal year, calendar year, whatever that looks like. But ultimately, the actual reporting and downloading happens at the local person, because they're the one who is responsible for creating any type of worship aid, putting words up on a projection screen, things like that. So the account owner is there to help kind of administer things, but in no way, shape, or form, allow me to be very clear about this, is the account owner responsible for reporting for 50 organizations. Oh my goodness, could you imagine?
Great. And the next question is there any penalty if people don't report the usage?
Ooh, Monica, I would love for you to answer that.
Thank you. Look, there is no one's going to come after anybody with a big stick if they don't report. Look, legally, if you are actually making reproductions, then it's incumbent upon the license holder to report. It is part of the program. So having a license is not enough, but in legal terms, the license is the most important thing that you need. But what's the point of it if there's no reporting? So it does go hand in hand. In covering the legalities of it, our terms certainly state that we need to report. So it's not good enough just to have the license.
Thanks for saying that, and I appreciate the humor, but also the candor, because I think it's both at the same time. The terms are very explicit. The terms are only 2 pages, and they're only 1 page if you only have an annual reprint license. They're 1 page. They're not difficult to read. It's not complex legal language. It's pretty straightforward. But the reporting is non-negotiable, right? It's the whole purpose of why this exists. And just to show you how easy this is, I will show you an example, just in case you are not responsible for your reporting, or if you don't already have a current license with us. I'm gonna look up All Are Welcome. I'm gonna click search. I'm specifically referring to Marty Haugen's version of this, so I'm gonna scroll down until I find it, and here it is. I click the green report button. If you were in Australia and New Zealand, you would see a drop-down menu here for reporting the graphical source. That's a specific copyright legality that's involved in that region specifically. Since I'm on someone else's account, I won't click this, but I would submit and continue my search, or I would send and view my report. I can click the week. I can click the number of services that I used it for, and that's it, my friends. That is it. If I wanted to make it even easier, I could search All Are Welcome Haugen, and it's the first one that comes up, just like a Google search. So the searching aspect of this is very, very, very easy. If I had, for example, the Gather 3rd edition hymnal, number 850, I could also search here, Gather 3rd edition, number 850, and it would pop up for me as well there. All right, so the reporting process of this is incredibly easy. If you, again, need a tutorial on all of this, blog news.onelicense.net, search the word webinar, and you can do a deep dive into all of the reporting and downloading of the actual website itself.
Wonderful. Now, the next question has to do with how many users can be added to an individual license, and can we have a person whose only role is to access download of music to use in mass?
Yeah, absolutely. You can have as many individual users as you would like to have. Typically, we see anywhere from 1, if it's a small organization, up to maybe 3. Perhaps you have a different let's speak of a church, for example. I know my church, we have someone who does the teen mass different from the person who does the regular Sunday masses. There's also a more traditional service that happens on Sundays as well. So we actually have 3 different people that are doing our reporting. So you're more than welcome to have multiple email addresses listed there. The email addresses are unique to each person, right? So that way there isn't a whole lot of communication back and forth with, oh, well, what did you use? And why haven't you emailed it to me yet? And all of that back and forth that can happen. We just avoid all of that altogether. And have each individual user who's involved have their email address listed on the website. You can see if you click on your report usage here, you can manage any specific week. What you're looking at, just so we're clear, is the master account. So often master accounts don't have their own services. Sometimes they do, right? If a diocesan office is going to have a service, or if a school district, if they're going to lead like an initial beginning of the year prayer service or prayer and training or something like that, you may see titles reported here, but I'm not surprised that there aren't. But you could click on this green manage button and you can see, oh, okay, the teen mass reported this, the guitar mass reported this, right? And you'll be able to kind of hold everyone accountable. So again, that would be under the specific group organizations themselves. So say I was logged in here as Chip Mueller, I would be able to see, oh, okay, I have my 3 license holder users that are listed here, and I can, see what they're doing. Does that answer that question?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Now, next question. Do I need to let anyone know when I have added a school?
You do. And we want to make sure that everything is added correctly. We want to make sure that the license number is appearing appropriately, that the pricing is appearing appropriately. So if you can take a minute or two and send us an email and just say, hey, you know, I added this new organization. Can you take a look at everything for me? Granted, as long as it's before that lockout period, there won't be any problem at all, and you'll see them renew the next time. If you're adding an organization significantly before that lockout period, though, we may want to take a look at if there's any proration or anything that's needed. If halfway through your license, there's a new organization, a new school, a new church that opens, that would certainly be cause for us wanting to prorate the license in some way where they can join immediately. So yes, in a spirit of good communication with us, we do ask that you email us.
And that does answer the next question, which is what happens if a church in my group has a change in membership numbers mid-year?
Yeah, so as a general rule, Monica, feel free to answer this if you'd like to. Actually, yes, just go ahead and answer that one.
So generally what happens is we make a decision that we've got X amount of average attendance, let's say 200, and that changes. If as Brenna explained, if it changes within you need to check what what's the word? I'm struggling for the word. The range.
Yeah, the range.
Checking the range to see if it falls. If it falls outside the range, then if you've already paid for the invoice, it's all up and happening. And there's only sort of a month or two left on it. We're not going to be too concerned about that. But as Brenna said, if you're moving, say, from category C to category E, then we would need to know about that. But in the end of the day, when the invoice is actually renewed, you just make sure you have your categories correct, and then the invoice will kick over. Generally speaking, though, there's usually changes of 1 or 2 or 10 or 20 are accommodated within the range.
Wonderful. Now I've got 3 more questions, so hopefully we can squeeze these in the last few minutes. One of them is, are my organizations able to see their own 12-month history, or is it only the general group account that can see 12-month history usage?
Yes, they can. So let me log out here and show you what that would look like. So now I'm logged in as a single, individual license holder, so I'm not under a group. I can see my reported titles by clicking on my account and then report usage. And then I can also download my 12-month history at the bottom of the left-hand side. And you'll see that report pull up here as well. So yes, organizations can always see a quarterly window. They can see 12 weeks in the past and 6 weeks into the future, but you can also download a 12-month report as well. You can also, if I can get there fast enough, you can click View Past Reports, and then that will actually pull up pages upon pages upon pages for how long you've had the license, especially if it goes beyond that 12-month period, to see what those other titles were.
And let's say, for instance, an organization hasn't reported. The account manager has noticed that. They've contacted the particular organization to say, hey guys, let's start reporting. What if they haven't reported and the period is longer than that 3 months that you can see?
Yeah, so we invite you to, if they're going to start submitting their reports, to put them in for any available week. So if I go back to my report usage page, again, I have that quarterly window, 12 weeks in the past, 6 weeks into the future. So for example, if I was looking to report Christmas titles right now, I technically cannot put them in under Christmas. I can think ahead. I mean, I'm certainly well into the Easter season and everything here. I can certainly plan ahead, but I'm not going to be able to report for Christmas. So my recommendation would be to put them in for the first available week, which is here, January 3rd. They're better late than never is the best way to say that. The problem for the organization is that if they look back, say next year they're looking to plan and they want to see what they used for the previous Christmas, there's no way that they're going to remember that they put it in for January 3rd, right? So it's going to confuse them as to where their titles are. So we encourage you to always put them in for the week that you're actually using them, right? You can see I have a whole quarter that's here. So I don't need to be logging in every day. I actually don't even need to be logging in every week. But if it becomes a month, 6 weeks, it can start to become too cumbersome to do that reporting. So we invite people to be as accurate as possible. The royalties from December are already paid out, but if you put them in for this first available week, we'll make sure that they're paid out on the next royalty statement.
Wonderful. That explains it very well. Now, the next question is, where can I find payment details to pay for my account?
Sure, like the actual processing of the payment?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you go to the blog and you search the word payment, we're very transparent here, folks. You can click this one here. It says wire transfer instructions and international payments. So it breaks down the different countries. So in North America, you can pay with a credit card. You can also send in a check. Outside of North America, you have the option for a credit card, but you also have wire transfer instructions below. So as a reminder, I went up to the search bar, I typed in payments, and then I found this page here. And you can also download a copy of this document, this PDF here. Click on this download link, and then you can forward that over to your treasurer or whoever that happens to be.
And while we're in the news page, I just want to bring attention to a couple of questions that have come through. One of the questions was explaining what graphic source is, which I might get Monica to explain in a little bit. But the other question was, can you please explain creating a songbook for use in our organization? There is a lot of information provided on this news.onelicense.net page, which will answer these sorts of questions, such as creating songbooks for your organization. As you can see, Brenna has just searched supplemental. This has brought a newsletter which came out earlier on in the year about how to create your own hymnals and using that in your organization so that you don't have to keep printing a new hymnal every week. But Monica, if you could please explain a little bit on what graphic source is, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, happy to do that. So in Australia or the Southern Hemisphere, there is an extra copyright which is called the typographical copyright. We refer to that as the source, meaning if I have photocopied a melody line or photocopied lyrics from a published edition from, say, a hymn book, then there is a copyright that's applicable. So you can see now Brenna has brought up on the screen All Are Welcome. Now if she clicks the select graphic source, if we just drop down there, say for example I have sourced that All Are Welcome from All Together Again, it isn't in it, but just say we have, then that's what I would flag in that. If I haven't sourced it from a particular book, I've actually typed the lyrics up, then I wouldn't choose a graphic source. You just put none specified. But this is one area that in Australia and New Zealand people are unclear about, so I'm glad someone's asked the question. So in other words, if you're using As One Voice or Gather or any of the hymn books, they will appear in the drop-down list, and we just ask that you flag them. It sends a message to the publisher that the actual source material has come from their publication, and that's important for them to know that.
And I'd like to clarify that this is specific to Australia and New Zealand. So rest of the world, just disregard what we're talking about. But New Zealand, this is what your graphic source is.
Tighter copyright laws in your region. Who would have thought?
I know, so bizarre. But firstly, thank you again, everyone, for sending through your questions. There are a lot more other questions that we will be answering. They won't be mentioned in the webinar, but thank you for sending them through, and hopefully we can get to them shortly.
Thank you, Shanae. And I want to be respectful of all of your time since we are at time, and we'll sign off for now. More than anything, we want you to know that we're here to help you. We love what we do. Well, I'll speak for myself. I love what I do. I am actively involved in my parish. I'm actively involved in music ministry. I am an educator first and foremost, and I'm here and developing all, rest assured, I'm a millennial too, so you're welcome. I'm here to create tools that are helpful. We're here to make things very transparent and very easy for you. So if there is anything that you need, please email us, info@onelicense.net. Now you have it memorized. Monica and I, Shanae and I, my team, Kathy and Bernie here in Chicago, we are all sincerely here to help you. So I'll pass it over to Monica to say goodbye, but I thank all of you sincerely for your time today. If you do not have a license or a group license and you're interested in pursuing that, send us a message and we would be happy to help.
Thanks, Brenna. Yes, I echo what you've said about thanking you all for being here. I do want to acknowledge the work that you do. Often the musicians and the liturgists and the pastors, the priests, get a lot of acknowledgement for participating in the liturgies and the prayer services, etc. But your role as administrators in this is just so critical, and I like to look upon it as a ministry, and I believe it is one, and I thank you for what you are doing. The relationships that I have with the Australian and New Zealand managers, I value them very much. I value your friendship and I value the contribution that you make. So thank you for that. And as Brenna said, we're here to help, and please don't hesitate to get in touch if you need us.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, morning, noon, or night, wherever you are. And we will talk to you soon. Take care.